Good evening, everyone. I am Santa Fe County Commissioner Anna Hansen. I want to thank you for coming out to the Santa Fe County Nuclear Waste Emergency Response Town Hall. We are also streaming this live so that people who did not feel comfortable coming out could see this presentation also. I want to recognize that we are on Tewa land and we are in the historic village of Agua Fria, which I am honored to be able to represent. And it's also the home of the Pindi and Queimada Pueblo, which are ancient pueblos here. My own personal story, I wanted to share a little bit. I have been involved with nuclear issues for over 40 years. I moved here in 1973 and almost immediately became involved in issues of involving the lab and securing and moving waste off of the hill. And when I refer to the hill, I'm talking about the Pararito Plateau. And because I have always felt that it was extremely dangerous. And then once we built the Buckman Direct Diversion Plant, which is our drinking water plant, which happens to be right at the foot of Los Alamos, it is really even more important that we get all the waste off of the hill. But what's happened in the years since WIP has been built, first of all, 599 was constructed, the highway out here that many of you use, as a nuclear highway. That was its main purpose, to be constructed. And in 1999 to 2004, I was the chair of Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety. And so I have worked on nuclear safety issues for many, many years before that and after that. As part of Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety, we worked really hard with the city of Santa Fe to make sure that the diversion plant, that the diversion was able to have an early notification system when water was running off of the hill. And so all of these things are related to what we are doing here tonight and talking about the transport of more waste that is not actually legacy waste, but we are talking about new waste that is being created at Lanol and being transported to many different other places. I want to briefly recognize a few people who are here and also have sponsored this. Is Representative Tara Lujan, who is the representative in district for this area. Also, we are lucky to have Alita Trujillo, who is, I'm still not saying her first name right, I apologize. Is from New Mexico Energy and Minerals and Natural Resources, and she is the WIP Transportation Program Manager. And so it's also nice to have people from other agencies involved and present here to know what is going on. We also have Bob Ally and Janet Greenwald, who are here from Southwest Research. Southwest Alliance, okay. And he is streaming it for us tonight, which is fantastic, so it is on YouTube. Also tonight is with us, and she will be speaking later, is Santa Fe County Fire Chief Jackie Lindsay. She is a former Homeland Security Director also for the state of New Mexico. And then I would be remiss to not thank my constituent liaison for District 2, Sarah Smith, who helped pull all of this together, along with Joni Ahrens from Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety. So please let's thank them also. So I'm going to get right to the presentation because that's why you all came here. And I will, of course, put my mask back on. And I really appreciate everyone being so responsible and protective of keeping your mask on. And I only took mine off to speak, and I will put it right back on. And now I want to turn it over to Cindy Wheeler, who is a concerned citizen, a biology teacher, a member of and co-director of 285, which along with Roger Taylor, who is also here, who is also very concerned about these issues. And they did this presentation earlier in the summer, and this is the second one because we really feel that it is so important to let people know what is going to be transported or is being planned to be transported on our highways, especially the fact that they are now wanting to transport plutonium in oxidized form, and this is a new introduction to the WIP plant that was not a part of the original mission. So with that, I want to wipe off the microphone. Okay, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Commissioner Hansen for putting the interests of her constituents first. Is this the right way to hold it? Does this sound right? Okay, thank you. So I'm Cindy Wheeler. I grew up in Roswell. My dad was stationed at Walker Air Force Base there. And I left and went out of state, left the state, and taught chemistry and astronomy to high school students for most of my career. And when I retired, I came back to New Mexico because it's home. And I bought my very first house when I retired, and I knew it was on the radioactive waste route from Lanel to WIP. But I also knew that WIP was scheduled to stop taking waste in 2024. And so I decided that statistically that was a risk I was willing to take. And then everything changed. And that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. First of all, I'm here to tell you about the expanded mission that Commissioner Hansen referred to, that the Department of Energy, the DOE, is quietly trying to put in place. And it will change the amount of transportation risk that we're exposed to. And first, I want to tell you where I get my information. Whoops, let's see, how do I do this? Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. So that you know where I get it from. Primarily, I get my information from mostly these three nonprofit organizations that are here in New Mexico. I don't know about you, but I don't usually rush home to find out what's been published in the Federal Register at the end of the week. These people do. They do an excellent job, and what they're doing is looking for information that the public might be interested in but doesn't have time to research. They get their information from government sources, and so the information I'm giving you is also from government sources. When I learned that the Department of Energy, the DOE, was going to expand WIP's mission and was planning a new one, I started talking to my neighbors about it. And they hadn't heard about it. How many people here have heard about a new mission? Okay, that's interesting. I even talked to my political leaders, and they hadn't heard about it. And that's when I decided to speak to as many affected neighborhoods as possible, because you don't put people at risk without letting them know. So after I speak, you might decide that this is a concerning issue. You might decide that it's not. But you need to know about it. You deserve to know about it. And by being secretive, I believe the Department of Energy is denying you the ability to make that decision. So let me kind of start by just doing a real quick review of what WIP is. Many of you know all about WIP, but there are people who don't know. So I like to kind of just put it together for people. First of all, it's in southeastern New Mexico. It's close to Carlsbad. This is a part of New Mexico that has a lot of nuclear projects in it. Some are already there, and some are being planned and being proposed. And I only mention this because I want you to understand that we are just talking about WIP. You may have heard about some of these other projects, and they are concerning projects as well, but we're not talking about them. We're limiting this discussion to just WIP. WIP is the only operating underground nuclear waste repository in the country, and it's only authorized to take nuclear weapons waste. So it doesn't take commercial waste from commercial nuclear power plants. Let's see. When WIP was created, the state of New Mexico put some limits in place. I mean, the federal government can kind of decide what it wants to do and where it wants to put nuclear waste, this weapons waste, but the state of New Mexico had some limits, and one of them is that it's a pilot plant. It was never meant to be the only plant or the only repository for nuclear weapons waste. In fact, Congress and the DOE promised that it would locate and build repositories in other states so that New Mexico wouldn't bear the sole burden of disposing of all of the military nuclear waste for the country. It hasn't done so. The second thing is that there's a limit to how much waste WIP can hold, down to the cubic foot. What you see here is a schematic. I keep missing this. I'm doing a laser when I'm supposed to be doing something else. This is the surface area of WIP. You can see the 4 shafts that carry personnel, equipment, and waste down to the panels or trenches that hold rooms, which is where the waste is enclosed. Oh. Go back. The permit, it also operates under a RCRA permit, Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, and the permit requires WIP to close in 25 years. That means that it should stop taking waste in 2024. And finally, WIP is only able to take a certain kind and form of waste. You may have heard it called transuranic or true waste. It's primarily at WIP plutonium, and it's only allowed to take plutonium contaminated waste, like you see here in these X-rayed drums. So that means protective clothing, sludge, maybe tools, things that were contaminated during the production of nuclear weapons. It's not allowed to take pure concentrated plutonium, like the plutonium that's inside a pit, or this is called a plutonium pit, or a trigger for a nuclear weapon. So, excuse me. It's important that these things were put in place. The state of New Mexico did that on purpose when WIP was created. And these legal permits, agreements, contracts, even laws are still in place. And I list them up here because they're important to us later on. Sorry, doing this wrong. Okay, and so New Mexico knew it's a little tiny state, doesn't have very many people in it, and knew that it was negotiating with the entire country. And so these different contracts were its way of saying, we don't want you to overreach, and its way of saying, we are going to be watching for mission creep. Oh, I'm supposed to do it like this, I guess. just to finish up, so this waste comes to WIP, the waste that's allowed from various military installations and labs from around the country. It's usually goes to Los Alamos where it's packaged, and then it travels down the designated radioactive waste route where it's disposed of at WIP, and this is primarily Highway 285. And what LANL does to package it is it puts it in 55-gallon barrel drums. Then they are placed inside another container called a True Pact, which protects those barrels from traffic accidents and from something hitting it from the outside. And then they're placed on tractor trailers and taken to WIP and unloaded. And that's WIP. Okay, that's WIP until now. So how do we know that the DOE is expanding WIP, even though it denies it? We look at the public record. And so about a year ago, the Department of Energy published a notice of intent explaining that it intends to expand WIP to hold something like, at this point, 47 metric tons of what it calls surplus plutonium. And excuse me for a minute. I'm getting really low. This plutonium, we'll talk more about it later, but shortly after that, the National Academies of Sciences wrote a 200-some-page report on this WIP expansion where it gives some ideas that tell us some details about what the DOE might be doing and how it might be doing it, and also gave some recommendations, one of which was, you'd better be doing this with the state of New Mexico or this project may not be successful. And so this is the context. There's certain things we know, okay, because it's in the public the public record. We know that WIP is being expanded. We know some of the details. And that's what leads us to the concerns that I'm going to show you. Concern number one is this, increased volume. So the blue area is the size of WIP underground right now. The green area is what they want to build out. That would make it more than twice the size that it currently is. And that leads us to concern number two. You can see that there is no way they can build out this infrastructure and then place waste in it within the next 3 years. And so, indeed, now the DOE is saying that probably it will continue taking waste throughout the century. The third concern is the distance. So, most of this waste is right here. It's in Pantex near Amarillo, Texas, but it can't go directly to WIP because it needs to be processed first. So the plan is to take it to LANL for processing, then take it across the country to South Carolina for more processing. I'm not making this up, guys. This came right from the National Academies of Sciences, and then back to WIP for final disposal. That's a 3,300-mile road trip for every package they intend to ship to WIP. Concern 4 is that it will be a different waste. It will no longer just be, this isn't quite working, it'll no longer just be plutonium contaminated waste. It will be pure concentrated waste, like is contained in a part of the pits. And just to kind of give you this idea, first of all, it will leave Pantex. It will travel along Interstate 40, past Tucumcari, some very valuable farm and ranch land. When it gets to Klein's Corners, it will go up to 85, skirt Santa Fe, and then go to LANL. And it will do this twice. I'll show you why in a minute. What happens at Los Alamos? Well, it leaves Pantex like this, and at Los Alamos, it is turned into a powdered plutonium oxide. So it's a very fine-grained particulate form of plutonium. Notice that now it's not only a different type of plutonium waste, but it's the most dangerous form of plutonium if it's released. And then it comes back. This is what I mean by twice. The very same plutonium, but in this other form, now comes back and moves right down the designated route and along Interstate 40. And this is what the whole thing looks like on a map of the United States. So first of all, it travels from Pantex to Lannel, then from Lannel to South Carolina, and then from South Carolina to WIPP for disposal. That covers, or at least enters, 12 states. And I have a feeling they don't know any more about this than we do. Not only that, the only time that this waste is going to be carried in those TruPack trucks is probably here. For more than half of the trip, it's going to be carried in a different kind of container. That container is this. This is actually one of the trucks. They look like regular semi-tractor trailers. They're with the Office of Secure Transportation, and right now they're being used to carry nuclear weapons across the country. They are somewhat reinforced to protect them from terrorist attack, and they're also accompanied by armed federal agents. However, about 3 years ago, the Los Angeles Times wrote a report, did a story on them, and called the agency troubled. It said that they have a really high driver turnover, low worker morale, and not enough funds to maintain these older trucks. Trucks are aging. Now, that was 3 years ago, so I don't know if Congress has now done something about that. But it's already struggling with this mission. And if you add a mission to that, you can see that you might have problems. Indeed, a high-level Energy Department official is quoted in this article as saying, if you are in one of the communities along the route, you have something to worry about. And now, why am I stuck? Guess I can just, there, okay. Another concern is property loss. Sandia National Labs did a site remediation study where they decided and state that particulate plutonium, the kind we're talking about, is almost impossible to clean up. It's just too fine-grained. And you can't pick it up with a Geiger counter because it emits alpha radiation, which is not picked up with a Geiger counter, it's picked up with an alpha counter. But it's so fine-grained that what they're saying in this report is that the soil would need to be scraped. This is our farm and ranch lands. That structures would need to be abandoned. This is our homes and our schools and our businesses, and possessions left behind. And perhaps most concerning to me is the health issue. This is so fine-grained that what happens if it is released is that breezes and winds pick it up very easily, and it's inhaled by anyone in the area. These particles get lodged in lung tissue. They can stay in the body for decades, and that provides an ongoing radiation, and an ongoing source of radiation and a continuous source of radiation. And so that's what causes cancer of the lungs, the bones, and the liver. Now, it may take months to years for those cancers to develop, but of course, if you're 85, that's one thing. If you're a child, that's another thing. Children are most at risk. The Nobel Peace Prize winning organization, International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, states that less than 1/1,000,000th of an ounce of this type of particulate plutonium, if it's inhaled, causes cancer 100% of the time, eventually. What concerns me the most is that I don't know how, if there were a release, emergency crews would be able to arrive, determine that there's been a release, and then tell people not to breathe outside. But we're lucky because we have some people here to help us with that. Also, packaging at landfill for this type of waste, they package it first in a metal container, and then they wrap it with PVC bag out, plastic bags, and then they put it in one of these two types of containers. What they're finding, though, is that there's the heat from the plutonium that is decaying inside the container causes these bags to degrade, sometimes even to the point where it starts to corrode the metal container that it's in. So I'm ending now with, a question. What promises has the DOE broken with the state of New Mexico that were agreed to legally when this was put into place? All of them. And just to leave with here for right now, New Mexico has the tools to protect itself. It can use the agreements that were put into place when WIP was built because they are still valid. And we can still close WIP in 2024. And one of the ways we can do it is by doing what you're doing right now, which is educating ourselves. And you can ask me later for options of things that are possibilities for what you can do. Thank you.
So that was the first part of the presentation to give you a little taste of what is to come. And the next speaker is the Santa Fe County Fire Chief, Jackie Lindsay. And I am so honored to have a woman as a fire chief. And, we're really lucky. She's a really competent human being, and she is going to talk about the response in Santa Fe County and what we are available and what we have available.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. And Representative, thank you for being here. It's always great to see our elected officials with us. As I was introduced, my name is Jackie Lindsay. I'm the Fire Chief for Santa Fe County. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be on this team. And I want to tell you a little bit about myself, where I've come from and where I'm at currently. And then I'll talk a little bit about our fire department, our response capabilities, how we tie into our partners within the state and the federal level. And then I think the real value in things like tonight are the opportunity to talk and ask questions and share information with one another and get to the answers that you guys are interested in. So, a little bit about myself. Grew up in Canada, Canadian-born, American educated and trained. I moved here in 1992 on a softball scholarship. I went to Missouri for 2 years and ended up at the University of New Mexico. Go Lobos. I was there for 3 years, and then I moved on to the Canadian Olympic softball team and played for 2 Olympics in softball. So my bias is teamwork. Just so you know, I'm starting it off letting you know that I believe in collaboration. I believe in working together. I think that's how we solve problems, and I think that's how we create safe and resilient communities. So with that, I'll tell you a little bit more. I joined the fire service in 2002 as a paid firefighter, but I was a volunteer with Bernalillo County for 2 years prior to that. I took my EMT license and fell in love with emergency medicine. Wanted to be again on a team, someplace that I could help my community. I have a challenged teenage years in which I got very off track and was a community much like this that actually helped save my life. And I owe it to my coaches that got me back on track and sport that brought me out of a very dark place and into a place where I realized that serving a community who served me in a very dark time is incredibly important. And that's why I joined the fire service. So that was back in 2002 with Albuquerque Fire Department, which is the largest fire department in our states, the 25th largest fire department in the country. I became just a regular firefighter, rode backwards for a while. That was really fun. Got interested more in medicine, became a paramedic. I also became a hazmat technician. I was in charge of our special operations, oversaw our wildland team, oversaw our hazmat teams, oversaw our urban search and rescue teams as well, and our heavy technical teams. Was part of the state's urban search and rescue team at the national level for 9 years, and that was dissolved several years ago, but Santa Fe County received a lot of that equipment, which was wonderful. So now I get to play a little bit more with that as well. I got interested in terrorism after 9/11. I was a cadet when 9/11 happened, and I think we all can remember exactly where we were that day. We just had the 20th anniversary this year, and that's a very important piece of history for the fire service. I got curious as to why we had people wanting to fly planes into our buildings, and started asking more questions as I rose in my career as a firefighter, and got interested in a master's program from the Naval Postgraduate School. So I have my master's in Homeland Security. That caught the attention of Governor Lujan Grisham, and she asked me to be her secretary for Homeland Security and Emergency Management here at the state. And I did that for a little while, and then became, after I left the Homeland Security, I became the fire chief here at Santa Fe County. So I'm honored to be here and to bring some of my experience and my collaborative efforts to pull us together so that we can move forward in a really positive way. Most recently, the governor has asked me to chair the State Emergency Response Commission, and I have accepted that position. So I will be starting doing that. I haven't had a meeting yet. COVID has changed how we do all of this, as you can tell, right? And so I'll be working with them, and we work a lot with our local preparedness coordinators, or LPC groups. We also work with our WIP partners, of course, and you know, really looking at different response concerns within the state. So, Santa Fe County Fire, talk a little bit about us. And maybe you know this and maybe you don't. We have an emergency manager within our department, Mr. Martin Vigil, who has a lot of experience in this sort of realm. He is not here, he's out of state, and so I'm sure in the future, if you'd like to see some of our equipment, he'd be happy to bring that out at another meeting in the future. He has done that at some of the other workshops that he's done and community meetings that he's been to. We cover over 2,000 square miles in this county. It's a huge jurisdiction. Albuquerque is about 14 square miles, right? It's not that much, maybe a little bit more than that. But here, very big. We have 6 regional stations, and those are staffed 24/7. We have 100 paid firefighters and about 250 volunteers that are dispersed over our 14 districts. So it's a very big department and a complex department. We're what's called a combination department. Every one of our firefighters is trained in hazmat. So just to give you a little bit of encouragement as to the education that we do receive, there are 3 levels that the fire department looks at with hazmat training. There is awareness, there's operations, and then there's technician levels. Everybody gets at least awareness, but our department goes above and beyond. We do operations for everyone that is a firefighter within our department. So the fire department has not just been, as we know, fire departments have really pivoted over the years. We have worked ourselves out of a job. If you've noticed all of these systems that we've put in place in our buildings to put out fires, we have done a really good job of preventing and a really good job of putting in systems that help us fight fire. So we got smart back in the 70s and started doing EMS. And as time has progressed, we have realized there's much more hazard than just fire and EMS. There's motor vehicle accidents, right? So we do rescue, we do high-angle rescue, we do low-angle rescue, we do all kinds of things. We do prevention. We're in our communities trying to help teach people about defensible space and how to protect their homes from wildfire. And so part of that is also looking at hazmat. And I can say that Chief Vigil has really moved Santa Fe County forward in what we are capable of and what we have at our disposal. We do have a CBRNE truck, which is our chemical, biological, nuclear explosive truck, meaning if there's a big incident, if a very slim chance something like that were to happen, we need to be prepared for the first few minutes of an incident because we are the first responders. Actually, you are all the first responders, just so you know that. I guess we should really clarify. The first responder is the citizen. The second responder is us. So educating and teaching people what to do in emergencies is really important, and that's something that we pride ourselves in trying to help our communities do as well. When we come on scene, we have different capabilities. We'll show up with a fire engine or a ladder truck or a squad or a brush truck or a med truck. All of our meds and engines have capability of detection of radiation. So if we were to roll up on something and it is set the proper way, as we talked about earlier, I think Ms. Wheeler did a nice job talking about the different types of nuclear detection, whether it be an alpha, beta, or gamma. And we have that capability, which is important to know. But let me tell you a little bit how we respond to a hazmat scene so this makes sense. It doesn't matter if it's an oil spill or if it's a car accident or if it's some sort of some other type of release. What we are trained to do using something that we call our Bible, which is the Emergency Response Guide. This is our Bible on all of these incidents. It's very important to be able to identify. Sometimes things are placards, sometimes they're not. It depends on what's being loaded into a semi. And that's specifically what we're talking about here today is semis. So if it is placarded, it's easier for us to identify what is inside. In a semi truck, if it is under 1,000 pounds, it may not have a placard. So you could have 12 different substances within a big box truck that comes from Amazon, say, but if it doesn't reach 1,000 pounds, it doesn't reach the threshold for having a placard. And when I say placard, do you know what I mean by that? They're like, what are you talking about? It makes total sense to me. A placard is one of those diamond-shaped things on the outside of a truck. You may see them on gas trucks, and they have a number associated with them. Sometimes they have a picture. We use this book to help identify what those things are. Once we identify, if it's something that we're concerned with, then we may isolate the area, create a perimeter. But I can tell you, regardless of what is involved in an accident or an incident, if there is life safety and we need to go in and save lives, we will do that, bottom line. We're not going to stop because of what is inside. That is our job, and we take that oath to do that and protect our community in that manner. So please rest assured that regardless of what incidents we run into, we will be there to take care of our citizens. But if we do identify something that we need to be concerned with, we'll create a perimeter. And then we'll evacuate anybody within that perimeter and keep people from going into it. The next thing we would do is then notify. I can say from my experience working with our WIP team and working with the Office of Secure Transport down in Albuquerque, every driver that drives these types of vehicles is trained to do exactly what they're supposed to do. Oftentimes, if there's an accident involving a truck, if that person is still conscious, they would call their dispatch center, who would then call 911, and then we respond. If they're not, these trucks are also monitored, much like your OnStar in your vehicle, right? If you turn your OnStar on, you have a GPS that's in your vehicle, and it's tracked wherever it goes. So that is also something else that is being done by some of these. Now, I cannot speak to what Ms. Wheeler talked about today because I don't know about that shipment. I can talk about the OST and I can talk about the WIP. Those are the only two that I'm familiar with. And I have to say, I reached out, knowing I was coming here tonight, I reached out to every one of my partners that's in the know, and I had heard a term called stardust, and I don't know if that's the right term, but that's the one I asked about. Nobody knew what that was. So I can talk about what I do know with the WIP and with the Office of Secure Transportation. We are always training with our partners to integrate properly. Remember, this is my bias, right? It's that collaboration that I believe in 100%, because we are better when we work together on these things. And so we do a lot of exercises. I've worked with all the way up to the federal level for big incidents, and I can tell you it is very coordinated. Our responsibility as a local jurisdiction is to identify, isolate, notify, and of course mitigate if we are able to. If we're not able to because we don't have the proper level of protection to go in to do something, once we've taken care of that life safety, we won't be taking care of that. That's going to be our federal partners that are going to do that. They have emergency response teams that are here in New Mexico and respond rather quickly. We have beautiful reach back. I've worked with our prevention and response to nuclear detection within the state. That's another program, the PRND program. And we actually have, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to call you out or not, Chappie, but you are here, so I will say that we have good working relationships with folks. They train all the time. Balloon Fiesta is a great training ground where we can detect something as little as someone that has had a medical procedure for, what's the right term, Chappie? I can't remember. Chemo, thank you, I'm so sorry. So if they've gone through chemo, there is some radiation detection. The devices they have detect down to somebody that's just walking out on the field at Balloon Fiesta that has had that kind of incident. So it's amazing the technology that we have these days. And that's something that they've been working with and I was involved with for many years before I became the fire chief here. So with that, that is really how we would respond to a hazardous incident. I did look into how many accidents we have in our community, since we are concerned about semis specifically. Over the last 6 years, we average about 500 motor vehicle accidents a year. That's in the entire county. Unfortunately, our reporting system doesn't allow me to pick a small section like what we saw on the map where this route is. I can't pull that out, but looking at the entire county, we have on average about 500 motor vehicle accidents a year. 1% of those, so on average 5 are semi trucks involved in those types of incidents. I can't speak to how many accidents WIP has had, and I think 2 in its history. In its history here in New Mexico. Okay, so 2 WIP accidents in its history. That are weather related. Okay, so that's not my expertise, but I can certainly, turn it over to anybody else that you'd like to speak. But that's really all I had to say today about our response as a department. I'd love for you to see the truck that we have and some of the equipment that we have and the monitors we have that we're able to detect some of the bad stuff out there and hopefully keep all of us safe. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your support of the fire department. It means the world to us. We really are here to take care of all of you. So thank you for coming tonight. Should I wipe this off? You got it? Okay, thank you.
So I want to also allow our representative, Tara Lujan, to say a few words. Tara is a longtime friend and also a very hard worker for all of us. And I wanted to give her an opportunity to just say a few words before we go into question and answers.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. This is, I think, as everyone has mentioned, is something that we've, as New Mexicans, have been dealing with for, we're the only site here. And we were told we were going to be a pilot site. And I can remember in my younger years, my mother and her friends going out and protesting against the WIP route before it was even built. So that's part of my history and involvement of this. And I just want to say that we are looking at, as a state, we are looking at this very seriously. We have our committee that's chaired by Senator Jeff Steinborn from Las Cruces. And so that's the Radioactive Hazardous Committee, which is going to be meeting this month. And we're going to have the commissioner present as a panelist because we have the concerns. And, one of the things that that I've done, as I'm not an expert in this, but I've done my part in talking and reaching out to our federal delegation and talking with the senator as he's the chair of this committee. And Amnerd, I've tried to talk to the secretary, but we have a meeting scheduled. So hopefully to have some discussions there. But as I've been looking at this issue in my role, one of the things that really stands out is the buy-in that we have from the community in Carlsbad and surrounding areas, and the contributions and the investment that that is made to the community and the support that they have there. And, you know, we're opening up these discussions, but the fact of the matter is that we had the mayor of Carlsbad and other community members really come. This was last year when I was on one of the committees and listening in, that there's a genuine buy-in there, and they contribute to the community, to the small businesses and so forth. So to put that and add that into this discussion that we're having, I think is really important in understanding the financial issues and controls, so to speak, that this industry has with us. And I think this is something that with the commissioners aware of as well. But it is part of this conversation because they are expanding. I wasn't made aware of this until this year and understanding this and started asking these questions. So I want to let you know that as a state legislature and your state legislature here, that this is a concern. I am taking this up and having these discussions, but it starts with you, and I really appreciate he's saying that you're the first responders. We're always the first responders in every aspect. So this is how these conversations start. These are how our concerns get met and get addressed. And so I'm happy to work with you and understand this further and have these open discussions and bring it to the entire state from this perspective, because I haven't heard it, to be honest with you. I have been involved with the legislature for some time, but I really haven't, and Commissioner, you can add to this if you've ever been part of a panel addressing the state with this issue or related issues. I know you're involved in many, many things, which I really appreciate, and I just think that this is the first step that I've seen taken in a long, long time. Like I said, my mom has been an activist herself in her own right and has educated me on this subject to a certain degree. But I want to thank you all for being here tonight and having this discussion, and really thank the commissioner for bringing this to the forefront. And I thought I recognized our former secretary, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I think the education portion of this, if something were to happen, is something or discussions that we're not having either. So this is a really important night. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a mic set up right here for people to come, and if they have questions of Cynthia, myself, Chief Lindsay, Mr. Elita Trujillo, or anyone else, please come up to the mic, and we will do our best to answer some of those questions. I did do a little bit of research on what stardust, or I got another term for it, was pixie dust. And it's what they do in South Carolina to plutonium. Once it's been oxidized, it's still a vital form. But in South Carolina, Savannah River site, they are able to use this term stardust or pixie dust, and what it does is it degrades and makes the plutonium unusable and very ugly and uninterested and interested to nefarious people who would like to do something with it, and it makes it unusable. So I did do enough research to find that out, and that is one of the reasons why they're taking it all the way across the country to Savannah River site. So I was hoping that maybe we could figure out a way that it wouldn't have to move that far, because this is a lot of transportation. And I also got a report from Nuke Watch that, and some other people, that they are planning to start bringing plutonium that has been pixie dust or star dusted from the Savannah River site next summer to WIP. So the things are happening rather fast. And so I think it's important that people are prepared and aware of what is happening. And that is what this town hall is about. So I don't see anybody standing up to ask questions. Or maybe we do have someone, yay. It always helps to have somebody break the ice.
Well, I have two questions. In the pixie form, is the substance still dangerous, as we heard?
I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you that. But it's supposedly supposed to reduce the ability for it to be used in any way.
So essentially what it does at the Savannah, I'm loud. I'm loud.
Use the
Can you hear
mic.
me? No?
No, use the
You
mic.
have to use the mic, take off your mask.
So essentially at the Savannah River site, what they do is they downblend it because nothing of what's been spoken of regarding the pit meets the waste acceptance criteria. So in order for it to come to the WIP site, it would have to meet the waste acceptance criteria. So basically what they're doing is they're taking this material and they're downblending it to make it transuranic material so that it's in the same form as the other items that are being shipped to WIP. So it's, if you look at it from a danger perspective, it's as dangerous as anything that leaves
Los Alamos, INL, whatever, going to the website.
Okay. So the question I was going to ask until I heard about pixie dust was if there were an accident involving powdered plutonium, this is probably for the fire chief, how long would it take the county to get to the site where the accident may have happened?
I'm just gonna grab my own little white folder. Yeah, thank you for your question. So how long would it take for the fire department to respond to an incident? So it depends on the location within the county, but I can tell you if it's a long 599, anywhere from Milwaukee down here to 599, we have stations along this route, so we would be there within minutes. It changes a little bit as we start to go south and we get further away from the more concentrated area where we have population. We do have our volunteer districts all along. We have El Dorado, we have Glorieta, we have Stanley. Edgewood has a staffed 24/7 station, so if they had to come up, it could be a little bit longer. But I can tell you along the busiest section in here, it would be within minutes. Probably not more than a 10 or 15-minute response.
Unless we were on another call. So it really depends, right, on our resources and what we have. If we had a fire somewhere else, we'll be coming in. We also have mutual aid partners. So every single county around us is a mutual aid partner. So in the event that we can't respond, somebody else will be coming. So for instance, City of Santa Fe would be able to come. Los Alamos fire could come down. Up north, a little bit further, they can come down as well. So we have partners and we have mutual aid agreements for those exact reasons. We don't want to leave any of our community without response. And so if they're out, we respond to their locations, and if we're out, they'll respond to ours. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, just to that point,
Yes.
and I think we have someone else going to ask a question, I'll defer to them.
I'd like to add, honey.
Thank you. And the reason they call it stardust is because it's another way of saying this is secret and we don't want you to know what it is, which makes sense. I mean, you know, they don't want to announce to the world what it is, but that's where that term comes from. Yes, it is just as radioactive as Aletha said. It's interesting. One of the reasons they are downblending it, and when they turn it into an oxide, they're diluting it, that's the word they use, is because it is too concentrated to put into WHIP as it is. And so they're trying to kind of get around that by putting it in these different forms. And in fact, Senator Pete Domenici, I believe, made a very strong point a few years ago that that cannot happen, that we don't want to see them doing this kind of thing to concentrated plutonium in order to get it into WHIP. So this is something that was a concern years ago.
Thank you, Cindy. Next question.
Well, thank you for the excellent presentation tonight. I feel like I learn more and more when I come to these. But what I would like to understand, I mean, we're talking about airborne toxicity that probably creates all these issues in the body due to the respiratory system. And if you have stardust or whatever kind of oxidized plutonium, form this is, an accident. I mean, if there's no accident, I don't think any of us need to be as concerned as we are. But if there is an accident, and you've got windy conditions in New Mexico, and you've got this dust going all over, and maybe, let's just estimate 1,000 people in that area, and I don't know how you draw up a perimeter in a windy situation and how that's going to handle and how you would decontaminate 1,000 people when it's the respiratory system. And I know these are very difficult questions, but I feel like it's something, that we need to really look at. Thank you.
So thank you, another great question. And to speak to how do we identify like an area that would need to be evacuated if we had winds blowing, if there was a release of any substance into the air. So it's something called plume modeling. So we have technology and different systems that are able to understand what the substance is, understand the winds are already tied in, so it's tied into the weather system, into NOAA and that sorts of programs, and then they're able to give a model and an understanding of where something would be affected. It's the same as smoke. So we'll take something that does happen in our community an awful lot, right? We have wildfires, and when we have smoke that settles, that can be modeled, and then we can communicate with those areas within our community because we have some reverse 911 systems that we can use, or outreach to the community to take mitigation steps in the event that we need to shut down, AC units, that sort of thing. That's something that I can't speak to what the feds have. All I know is they have all of the bells and whistles. Unlike us, we don't have all of the bells and whistles, but that's how we look at plume modeling, if that's helpful.
And also, I think it's important to know that over the years, many of us have worked with DOE, with the WIP people, to ensure that these containers are as safe as they could be. We started before 1999, before the first shipment, when I was involved with Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety, and pushed to make sure that the true path was appropriate. So your voice matters. That is why we are doing this town hall, because your voice matters. And there are many things that we can all do, and some of those things I know that Cindy wants to share, like reaching out to the governor is really important, letting her know that this is not something that you may want or that you're concerned about. And so I will let the next person ask a question. I think it is Chappie, so please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. On behalf of my tribal nation, the Texas Band of Yaqui Indians, I think one of the most important part of discussions about this particular topic is the collaboration. I truly believe in collaborating with the indigenous communities, especially here in Santa Fe County. The Mexican, the Chicano, the Chicana, the Indios, the Indias in the northern part of our state to reach out and make sure that we have that collaboration with our local, tribal, state, federal, and that's a missing link as far as I'm concerned. That's a missing link. I would love to have this room just filled with all walks of life. You know, whether we like it or not, people may not like what I say, but this race card issue is a really big deal on this topic because what's going on in Lee County, you know, Roswell, those particular areas, that website, the city of Carlsbad doesn't speak for northern New Mexico at all. And for them to come back and to the state legislature and tell the state legislature, oh, we want this, we want that, and then down the line, check this out, you know, this whole international issue, in an event of a really serious WMD scenario, you really think that the state of New Mexico can handle that? You know, our emergency plans? I would love to see the Santa Fe County lead, the Santa Fe County Commission lead, bringing this collaboration with everybody, conversation about training your first responders, how to take care of our people out here. I'm a first responder, but I deal with death every day. No pun intended. I deal with death every day. So get with the program. I say collaborate. Amen?
Thank you very much, Kathy, always. Thank you, Nicholas.
I wanted to ask for, is there some group or a person who's taking the lead here for people who aren't at this meeting? Where do we direct people?
So I'm going to let, I'm leaning in this way, and so are my two other commissioners at the county. We are all concerned about Fifth and the travel along 285, but I'm going to let Cindy talk about what one can do to make a difference.
Thank you. Yes, so our county commissioners, we have 3 of them who have held this type of town hall, and that's because they're forward thinking and they care about you. So that's one. The organizations that I showed you on the slide are very important organizations also that have that information, and I'll tell you where you can take it with you as well. And then there's an organization that has been kind of taking the lead on this. I mean, even our community organization, 285 All, got concerned because we're on that path, that designated route. But there's also an organization that's called Stop Forever WHIP. And it's not, this is not, it sounds radical, and it's not. I mean, we understand the mission at WHIP. We are not opposing the mission at WHIP. It's a thing. It's there. We're opposing this foreverness of WHIP. We don't think it's safe. We don't think it's fair for New Mexico. And so outside we've got a little handout that has a way that you can contact people. We also feel that one thing that's important right now is to let our governor know that that we are concerned about this. It's kind of an odd situation, but the governor is in a position to actually
make some decisions that could very well protect us because of those contracts that we have in place. And so we are asking her to do that, and we have petitions that you can sign. We also have QR codes that you can use your phone to just sign it. We'll have people outside if you want to when you leave. And if I may, I just want to know how this works. Okay. I want to make just one point that I think is kind of important. And it's, what I'm trying to bring up is just this. You know, we don't think there's going to be an accident next month or tomorrow right outside our homes. But this new mission
has upped the risks. It's moved the goalposts unfairly. So now we have an increased volume of shipments. We have an increased number, we have an increase in time over the rest of the century. We have, it's going to go past our homes twice. It's going to go through 12 states, 3,300 miles for every package that moves, a troubled transport system, some issues with the packaging, possibly.
And then, the consequences are huge. So if you know your statistics and just the probabilities of an accident, and let's face it, even WIP has had an accident. There's always an accident, somewhere, somehow. Over this huge time frame is when we see the problem. And we don't think it's a good idea. We think that some of this waste should stay where it is and a repository built there. But in any case, you can do something about it. You're doing it now by getting the information, and you can sign petitions. There's many things you can do.
How can we get a copy of this presentation?
Did you leave your email with us? If I could just, I would love to use emails that y'all gave if it's okay with you to send only this information. I would not use it for anything else unless you don't want me to use it. So that's kind of information I need from you. If it's okay with the people who signed in and gave
Your email, I'll be happy to send this information. And if it's not okay, I don't want to do it.
I think that most of you, or many of you, are on my mailing list at the county, and it is something that I can send out as information for from this town hall and as a report. So, are there other questions? Okay, the woman in purple, please.
Yes, I'm from Dixon, New Mexico. We're directly downwind from Los Alamos. And I'm very concerned about the transportation, but I'm also very concerned about Los Alamos taking on this project. They are also taking on producing more plutonium pits, and then on top of that, they're going to be changing plutonium metal into talcum powder. Their record is not very good when it comes to safety, and I was reading the National Academy of Sciences bulletin the other day, and the writer said that he believed in this situation, if all of this goes through, that Los Alamos is going to be a bottleneck. So that's the last thing I want to see. There's a support group for contaminated Los Alamos workers in my community. We were contaminated by the Cerro Grande fire. You know what happened with WIP. Los Alamos mispackaged drums, and that's why there was an explosion at WIP. So I just want to state my concern that I really don't think Los Alamos can take on all these missions safely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is George Schaup. I live here in Santa Fe County. My question is, remember back to the slide that you showed of the WIP expansion, and in green you showed the amount of expansion that was being planned or maybe engineered to hold the approximately, it's 50 metric tons of plutonium we're talking about before processing, right? So that tonnage must increase some amount due to diluting it and putting it in this other form. But still, that expansion at WIP, that looks like a huge amount of expansion volumetrically to accommodate 50 metric tons. So what else, do you have that concern, and what else is going to end up in there?
So there are many other places that
Send transuranic waste to WIP, Idaho, Oak Ridge, Savannah. So there are many other places that have reservations for some of those already shafts that are processing legacy waste and new waste. But one of the things that's happening at Landell is that they are also processing new waste. A lot of the shipments that are now going off of the hill, off of the plateau, are from the plutonium processing, besides the legacy waste. And I have consistently pushed to make sure that the legacy waste is being removed from the hill.
Thank you.
It's a really good question. Part of what's going to increase the volume is the diluting of it and the adding of an adulterant. So that's going to make it a much bigger package. And also, you can't, and I'm not a nuclear physicist, so go ahead and correct me if you are. But one of the things about plutonium is it can't be packed close together because it will automatically go fissile. And so I'm assuming that might be part of it.
Okay, next.
Hello, I'm Virginia Miller, and I thank all of you for caring, educating yourself, and being willing to do what you can to keep yourself and all of us safer. Thank you. I am really overwhelmed by what Landell is doing with expanding its plutonium pit production and creating more of this incredibly dangerous waste. And the fact that our federal leaders and leaders at all levels are willing to keep funding this illegal activity. The United Nations has
a treaty that has gone into force this past year, declaring nuclear weapons illegal. Nuclear weapons are illegal. So why on earth is Landell, because they can keep getting the funding, so why on earth are our leaders at different levels keep on funding this dangerous activity and creating a new nuclear arms race, which is incredibly dangerous for all of us and everyone in the world? I'm really deeply concerned about all of this, and I want to let you know that one way we can begin to let leaders know they have support from people, if they know the people care, that they don't want all of this nuclear activity because it is dangerous and it is illegal and incredibly expensive. Those billions of dollars could be used for climate crisis solutions and human needs. Goodness knows we have plenty of those. So on November 5th, Friday, there's to be a rally at the Roundhouse at noon. Please come if you're free and you want to lend your body and your voice to helping support our leaders in doing what needs to be done in stopping this whole disaster. Those are big questions. But we can still do a lot if we do it together. Thank you.
That is part of the reason why we're here, so that we can work together to inform our elected officials like myself to know that this is an important issue to you and that you care about these things, because with that backing is how elected officials are able to push the ideas of the people that they represent. I work really hard to represent the people of this village, of this district, and of this county. Thank you. Next.
Jonalyn Grover, and I live here in Santa Fe.
I don't know the process of what has to happen for this to actually go forward. Can our governor amend this contract, extend it to 2080? Does it have to go through TAR's committee? Should we be contacting all of our state representatives and U.S. representatives?
Thank you.
I'm glad you asked that, because we looked at it really closely and we tried to determine who the decision makers were who could actually make a decision. It boils down to our governor because of those laws, because of the laws, contracts. We even have an act, the Land Withdrawal Act. The governor simply needs to use those, and she can tell the Department of Energy, no, this is illegal, it needs to stop. So that's really the bottom line. Like I said, we're going to have people outside. If you're interested in signing a petition or using a QR code, we'll try to make it as easy for you as possible. And this is not the county that's saying this. I don't want you to think the county is asking you to sign petitions. It's just if you're interested, we do have them here, and we're more than willing to make it available. So I think even more than your legislator is your governor and the congressional delegation in DC.
Sorry.
So good evening, my name is Joni Ahrens, and I am a co-founder of Concerned Citizens for Nuclear Safety
33 years ago. And I recognize a lot of you folks here. Thanks for being here. I want to thank the fire chief and Alethea Trujillo for all of her work, and Commissioner Hanson, of course, for all of the work and for bringing this all together. I do want to go back 25 years when we started in 1988, and at that time, DOE was making promises. We're going to be able to clean up all the waste at Hanford, Idaho, Rocky Flats, Los Alamos, Savannah River, Oak Ridge, and Fernald, etc. In 25 years, we're going to fill up WIP, and then we're going to close it. And those were the promises that they made. And if we don't hold them accountable to those promises, then we get the expansion. And the expansion, sir, you asked the question, what else is expected? Greater than Class C, which is a really high form of high-level waste. High-level waste from Hanford, from the tanks, that is storing, it's the sludge in the bottom of the big tanks that are leaking. And then mercury, as well as this surplus plutonium. So they have plans. They are working very secretively to expand WIP, We have been involved in 2 public hearings this year where we were not allowed, the public was not allowed to speak about expansion. The DOE and the State Environment Department both filed motions in limine, and the hearing officer ruled you can't speak about expansion. I've never been in a situation where I haven't been able to speak about public concerns. If you want resources, you can sign up for our weekly CCNS
News update at nuclearactive.org. Another great resource
is the Defense Nuclear Facility Safety Board, the DNFSB. They have weekly reports on what's going on at Atlanta, and they have a monthly report about what's happening at WIP. So they've had some problems at WIP recently that they've had to shut down work in the underground. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. You can hear the stress in my voice about all of this. These broken promises are significant because the fact that WIP is only for legacy waste, the fact that there's still 3 times the amount of waste sitting on the Pajarito Plateau in unlined pits, trenches, and shafts, destined for WIP, that hasn't been moved, that hasn't been excavated, that's threatening the regional drinking water supply. It's time to get active about all of this. I have business cards if you want to contact me. I hate to be the bearer of more bad news, but we beat them before. You know, we beat them. Lana was proposing 3 different kinds of weapon systems during the Bush II administration: the reliable replacement warhead, the robust nuclear earth penetrator, and the bombplex. And the people in northern New Mexico, with our colleagues around the nation and around the world, helped us to stop those projects. We really need to be asking our representatives, and I'll wrap up, what's the plan to transition Lano from nuclear weapons to something else, like installing broadband so our kids can do good in school? So,
As I see people leaving, I just want to say to you who's leaving, there are
Aloe veras out there that I would love you to take. It is a healing plant. I'm trying to share healing vibes with everyone. So they clean your air, and they are good on cuts and burns. So please take a plant. I have this beautiful mother plant who believes in healing, and so I'm sharing that with all of you. Because I see some of you leaving, and I don't mean to change the subject, because it's a very serious subject that we're talking about, and many things that we all need to do. And so is there one more question?
Yes, I have a question.
Thank you.
This brings to mind something I read about 15 or 20 years ago. Wouldn't this material, now that it's turned into Stardust, it's so fine, be excellent for a dirty bomb? And wouldn't it be good to provide extra security for these transports going back and forth?
I believe that what I have been told is that there is extra security and transports with the trucks. There is additional. Do you have any more information?
Okay, I'm sorry. I went blank there for a second. And so are you talking about going from South Carolina back to WIP?
Yes.
As I understand it, and Aletha is the person that answered this, it's going to be two-pack trucks. If there's additional help, then you want to answer it, Aletha?
So every one of our shipments that comes to the WIP is tracked via satellite. The TruePack containers themselves are very robust. When we talk about accidents, the TruePacks are designed to roll off of the truck. So the greatest threat that we see really is an accident in where a TruePack rolled off a truck and maybe injured somebody or rolled down a hill or something to that effect. It's funny because I watched this episode a
few months back, and it was I don't remember what show it was, Criminal Minds, and they stole a TruePack. They stole a whip truck. And I thought, why didn't they call me and talk to me about it? Because I could have given them a better storyline than the one that they had. I mean, the truck itself is governed at 65 miles an hour. So even if somebody stole a truck, they're not going to get very far because the truck doesn't go very fast. It's a very heavy truck. There's really no way for them to get inside of that TruePack because the lid itself is 4,000 pounds, almost 4,000 pounds. It's bolted on. It takes special equipment at the facilities to put this TruePack together. It takes machines. The average human, I mean, all of us in here probably could not lift that lid off the TruePack. So no, the WIP shipments are not under security of any type, but the truck drivers have their security protocols that they follow. The important thing to know is that every one of those shipments is monitored, it is tracked. Every law enforcement agency from its point of origin to its destination knows when those trucks are on the road. We know where they are. I know where every truck is that leaves a facility in the United States if it's coming to the WIP site. I have state police officers that also monitor those shipments as well. We get a 2-hour notification before it comes into the state, so we have people ready in state. But if you're talking about the OST shipments, those are under heavy security. And I wish I could tell you more about it, but I don't have the experience working with them. I only know the surface. I don't want to know anymore because I like to live. I like living. And I'm not interested at all in nuclear weapon shipments of any type, nor do I don't want to know. I don't want to know when they're happening. I have true faith and confidence because I've had the briefings and whatnot with the OST and the feds and the local law enforcement. Our state police officers train with them, our local officers train with them. I'm confident in those shipments being protected. Our shipments, we don't have armed guards, but we have law enforcement along the corridor. And that's, for me, equivalent to armed guards to some extent, if that's what we want to call it.
I guess my concern would be in either packing it or unpacking it, where somebody might be able to take a little bit of it. And, and I don't know how the system is, but once it's made that fine, that could be a weapons-grade dirty bomb.
So all of the packages, how this works, and I'll give you a real quick.
Happens when it gets to Carlsbad. So they check the package, make sure it's safe, they open it up, they use a machine to take the lid off, and then they use a machine to take the barrels out, right? And then those barrels are checked. There's a security system in that facility. There's security to get onto the facility, there's security throughout the facility itself. No, those drones aren't actually opened at the website. So when they come out of the TruePack, they're placed on a lift underground and carried off into a corner in the room. And someday, 10,000 years from now, the salt will grow over it, and God willing, we'll never hear of that waste again. That's the plan, right? So there's no way, and I can't say that because Murphy's Law, but really there's no way for a person to take a handful of dust, if that's a concern. Even at the Lano facility with the tools and the sludge and all of that, there's so much security. I mean, it's literally cameras everywhere watching. And I'd like to say that our background investigation system is top notch, but then we have spies, right? So there's Murphy's Law again. So I'll never say that anything is 100% foolproof because there's always that opportunity for Murphy's Law, but I do have confidence in the system. I've been with this program 8.5 years. I will tell you that of all the shipments on the highway, if I had a whip truck and a Walmart truck, I'll take a whip truck over a Walmart truck any day, because I know that my whip truck can't go over 65 miles an hour. I know that my drivers are trained, their qualifications exceed any standard for any other shipment in the United States. A Walmart truck can go as fast as it wants as long as there's no cops on the interstate, and they sometimes carry stuff that is way more dangerous in volume than what we have in a true pack if it came off of the truck. So as far as the other shipments, I'll tell you that the OST shipments are very secure. There's a team that rides with them. It's not just the drivers that are armed and equipped and trained, but there's a team of expert federal agents that go with those trucks as well. And our law enforcement officers train with them because, again, if they were ever stopped by a law enforcement officer, the officer's going to get approached by one of the team members out there before they even get close to the truck itself. So there's some comfort
in that. But there's Murphy's Law. So you're welcome.
The other thing that one of Joni mentioned was that there is the Defense Nuclear Facility Safety Board that oversees everything, and that is the one organization that we have that protects us as citizens. It is one of the most important organizations that exist. It is a board of scientists, nuclear scientists, specialists who hire and have people at every single site, and that is the reason that you know when something has happened at WIP or at Lannel or at Hanford or something. It is because of the Defense Nuclear Facility Safety Board. And during the Trump administration, they tried to eliminate their access, and I fought them, and we actually won, and they didn't lose their oversight. And that's a really important thing for all of us, because they are the one person or the one group of people who are really protecting us.
May I say thank you for that really good
I think we're close to 7:30. I don't know what time it is, but I try not to have these go over. But please take an aloe vera plant. I don't want to take any home. I am so grateful that you all came here. I am really, it warms my heart to know that people really care about this issue. And if anybody would like to hang out and help us put this room back together, we would love your volunteer help. So thank you once again. Representative Lujan would like to say just a few words.
Yes, I just want Chris was asking. So I will get and work with the commissioner to give some other information pieces, like with our Attorney General and with our agreements that we have in place that haven't been changed since the 80s. And some other resources information. But I think that the work that's been done and the advocacy and the leadership that we have with our commissioner is very poignant and speaks for itself. And I just want to say, in talking with our federal delegation, I'm glad you brought up the board, the safety board. Though they're not a regulating board, they are keeping us in check, keeping them in check. But they have to fight the DOE to keep them in place. And there's another step that we can look, another avenue of what we need to put in place as a regulatory agent. which was also taken away through these years, but it's something that we will work on and get some information, and I'll make sure that the commissioner, I work alongside with her and gets that information. And if we need to work on a memorial or do any of that sort of, that piece for the state, I'm willing to work on that with you. And also my information, so you can get a hold of me, is Tara, Tara, .Lujan, Lujn, at nm.regis.gov, excuse me. And my phone number, I'm just going to give it, it's 505-385-8676. Please reach out to me. Joni, thank you for all the work, Bob, for all your work. I've been, you've been on this forever. We did have these conversations, and, it's not fair what's going on when our public can't use their voices to speak out. But this is exactly what happened today, and you're doing the work right now. And I want to just honor our commissioner and say thank you. Thank you for all your hard work in doing all this. And our guest speaker, Ms. Wheeler, for your advocacy and your background in STEM and science and educating us. This is what it's really about. We have to educate our legislators. We have to educate our public, because science is real and the science is dictating that, we're at risk, and we have to understand what those risks are in order to solve the problems and issues. Thank you.
I also want to thank Chief Lindsay. We have a great fire chief in Santa Fe County. You should all feel really safe. So thank you. And she has cards here also. So thank you all for coming. I'm grateful.
And can I thank my gentlemen that are in the lobby that welcomed you today? Our Office of Emergency Management members are here, so thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.